Hi, everyone. This is Adrian Alexander from Free the Slaves, Secretariat to the Caribbean Coalition Against Trafficking in Persons. And welcome to this episode of Caribbean Connections. With me in studio today is the co-chair of the membership committee, Mr. Smith Maxime. Smith, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Adrian. Hi, Oliver. I am Smith Maxime, as Adrian said. I am a membership committee of the Caribbean Counter Trafficking in Person. And also, I'm now working as a co-director of Beyond Borders Haiti.
Great. Thanks so much, Smith. And we are interviewing today Mr. Oliver Profitt from the International Organization for Migration. Oliver has been a National Project Officer with the International Organization for Migration Guyana office for the past 5+ years and has more than 12 years of experience in counter trafficking in persons. Currently, he serves as one of IOM's Caribbean focal points on multiple protection issues, including trafficking in persons. From 2019 to 2021, Oliver managed a US-funded counter-trafficking in persons project in support of the work of the Guyana government on this issue, which led to the development of standard operating procedures on the prosecution of trafficking in persons in Guyana, among other key products. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Guyana and is an alumnus of the International Law Enforcement Academy, ILEA, in Roswell, New Mexico, USA. Welcome to the program, Oliver.
Yes, thank you for having me on. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And at this point, I'll hand over to my colleague Smith to conduct the interview. Smith?
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Oliver, I'm really happy to hear to learn about your background. But let me ask you, how you got involved in combating trafficking in persons?
Yes, so I would not say that it was necessarily the plan from the start. I in 2012, I joined the Ministry of Home Affairs in Guyana, fresh out of university, eager to learn, and I was employed as a research officer. I was a research officer with the ministry. They would give you a portfolio, a number of different security-related areas as to focus on. One was migration. Incidentally, one was IOM, but another one was trafficking in persons. So being in that research officer role, I was able to support the ministerial task force on trafficking in persons in Guyana, just with note-taking, being alongside the technical officers as they go to different awareness raising sessions to help victims of trafficking. And then, as time passed, I was able to be involved in the processes to develop national action plans, national annual reports on trafficking in persons. And it led to me becoming an acting coordinator of the task force, where it was a wonderful experience getting to work with colleagues from different ministries in government, but also from civil society, to work and try to strategize, make cases to the political leads of what initiatives we should undertake and why. So from that experience, for doing so for a couple of years, coordinating or being acting coordinator for the task force, it led to me joining IOM, which, as mentioned by Adrian, I joined as project manager for a project funded by the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons within the U.S. Department of State. So I continue along those same lines and building experience with IOM as in that area, trafficking in persons or combating that crime, but also in other migration-related areas over the time here. So I'm happy to still be in the area, serving as a focal point on protection, which allows me to continue working in the field of counter trafficking and also learning, of course, from colleagues in IOM and externally, including your team.
Thank you, Oliver. This is interesting. Now, talking about IOM, when trafficking in person became a priority for IOM?
Well, I would say maybe
especially
about,
in the Caribbean?
okay. I might say over 30 years generally, but in the Caribbean, more or less about 20 years or so, yes. So maybe we can talk about some of the things we have done over that time. So I joined in 2019, but it didn't start with me. Of course, I came and learned from a number of experts and colleagues working in this area in the Caribbean before me. Some of the things that have been accomplished. One thing I would mention is that these accomplishments are not just IOM accomplishments, because IOM working in the field, even though we both have an expertise and a worldwide reach on the subject. Every bit of work that IOM does on trafficking in persons in the Caribbean and elsewhere is in collaboration with other agencies, with other stakeholders, including government partners, civil society where possible. So the kind of interventions we would have been doing would range from our expertise in direct assistance provision to trafficking in persons victims or survivors. Also providing assistance to those at risk or deemed at risk to becoming victims of trafficking. And then that assistance would include assistance with immediate needs, return and reintegration assistance, livelihood assistance, and others. And then we don't stop there. We work with partners as well on policy development, procedural development, legislative development, awareness raising sessions, capacity building, and regional coordination. Even though our colleagues at UNODC would be we defer to them on areas regarding prosecution and investigation, we work with them a lot on these things so that we can, kind of blend our expertises together. But there are also areas or countries where maybe UNODC doesn't have the presence, so we have delved into investigative and prosecutorial work as well on trafficking. But we're more usually focused on the prevention and protection sides. Yeah, I guess you can leave it there for now.
Now, let me ask you what you would consider 5 major accomplishments.
So limited to 5 will be difficult, but one thing we would like to mention, firstly, is very recently there has been the development of a trafficking in persons referral mechanism in Trinidad and Tobago. So that referral mechanism, it also comes with more or less a resource map. It was done in collaboration with the Ministry of National Security there. It established clear terms of reference for agencies participating and community organizations, which enables streamlined delivery and timely service delivery for survivors of trafficking. So my colleagues in the Trinidad and Tobago IOM office will have taken the lead on that, working with our partners. So once again, it's not an accomplishment, yes, but it is one that is done in collaboration with many partners. A second one I like to mention is one that I was involved with in Guyana. We did work with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, along with other members of the task force, which included government agencies and civil society. In doing so, we had the opportunity to bring to completion and launching of a standard operating procedures document, which covered investigations, interviewing, and prosecution. So I think that was a landmark accomplishment. Not only did we do the SOPs, but afterwards we were able to collaborate on doing a training of trainers for frontline officials and other officers, other stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, to basically implement those SOPs. So we focused on those same 3 main elements of the SOPs, and it allowed the government of Guyana, the police force, the task force, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Ministry of Human Services to kind of take the lead in the coordination of different agencies in responding to cases on that investigation and prosecution side of things. Other than that, we also had more on the protection side, standard operating procedures done for St. Lucia. This is before I joined, and that was focusing on victim identification, referral, and also protection of victims. So this was done in 2018, and these SOPs, as you know, sometimes the context changes, and we're open to working with these countries, along with others who have shown interest. Yourself, UNDP has been taking a lead role in some of these areas to build on what was done in the past. Also in the past, 2018 also, there was a training manual prepared, once again on investigation, but investigation using a victim-centered approach. So it brought the protection element into the investigation side of things. It was a trainer's manual on combating trafficking in persons for capacity building of law enforcement officers in Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. So that's something that is still there, and even though it focuses on those 4 countries, with some similar contexts in the region outside of those 4 countries, you would find that that manual is useful for other countries in the Caribbean also, and it's also available online. The and last thing we want to mention, as I mentioned earlier, the UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. We've collaborated with them on things, knowing that we have some complementary experiences and skill sets. We work with them and CARICOM Impacts on a few outposts. One was Operation Carisika. So Caribbean and Central America area, there was a trafficking in persons, I think also anti-smuggling operation done in collaboration with among those 3 agencies and other partners on the ground. And then there was also an action plan done there. And also there was a model legislation on trafficking in persons for the Caribbean that was created through that collaboration, that partnership. So we can mention more things. Honorable mention might be the collaboration that we have had with you, with Free the Slaves, lending our voice to some of the initiatives that you have led, the forums that you've done, for instance, in the Caribbean. We're happy to have done so and to be invited to participate in those activities and initiatives. So we look forward to more in the future. So maybe I leave it there, but to say 5, there are many more as well. There are other countries that weren't brought in there, but it's a privilege to be able to continue to work and to be able to have the difficulty of naming 5. But of course, the issues surrounding this crime, they change over time, and new initiatives are needed. Updates to what I've done before are needed also. So we look forward to continuing to put minds together with colleagues at FTS, with colleagues all around the Caribbean, to see what more can be done to stymie the efforts of traffickers who are also doing their capacity building and changing the way they operate also.
Thank you, Oliver. Those are major accomplishments, I think, yes, very significant. Recently, IOM has developed a strategic plan for the Caribbean and set up a regional office. What was the genesis for this move, and how has this change enhanced your work in the region?
A very interesting question also. So as IOM, so one reason why I support the Caribbean team, I am based in IOM Guyana. I'm based in Guyana, but I work with IOM Guyana and IOM Caribbean. One of the reasons is because the coordination office for the Caribbean for IOM used to be in Guyana for a few years. But strategically, it was deemed necessary for there to be a change to Barbados. So some persons who wore a regional hat, including myself, were able to kind of stay in Guyana and still support the Barbados office from abroad. But you may notice or know that many of our partners have their regional base or regional offices in Barbados. So to foster that collaboration with our partners, it does make strategic sense to be kind of stationed right there in Barbados. So there might have been more that went into that, but as simply as possible to put it, that is one of the main factors. It was a strategic move. So in doing so as well, this came around the same time we were developing a sub-regional strategy for the Caribbean. We just call it our Caribbean strategy. So this was done using a consultative process, bringing in stakeholders, getting their feedback on our work, what they see that we have done doing well, what can we improve, and so on. That helped us to kind of build our strategy. Now, the strategy is focused on migration governance, maximum relevance and impact over our work. It has given focus to our work. IOM is primarily a productized organization, so we could fall into the trap of just reacting to how things move and not actually being a driver of the discussion. So if you have all this experience that we boasting about, then of course it is important to also be able to offer guidance, and we need to be guided ourselves as well as to what we're doing. So even though we're focused on raising funds to do new projects, it needs to be within some sort of framework. So the strategy provides that for us. It allows us to kind of preconceive the best interventions in situations where we need to, even if we need to adjust, we still have some sort of guidance there to help us to stay in aligned with our mandate, aligned with our goals and core principles in so doing. At the same time, the strategy does not neglect the priorities of the region, the governments in the region, the prevailing context in the region. So the strategy allows us to bring all of that under one umbrella. It's also aligned with the Global Compact on Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, which governs guides a lot of what we do at IOM, and is in line also with the United Nations Multi-Country Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, which is the overarching document that guides what the UN does, the United Nations does in the Caribbean. So the process and document have also assisted not only IOM to be guided, but also stakeholders to better understand IOM. Sometimes persons don't understand what exactly we do, and to get to understand our objectives or areas of impact. And specifically the objectives of the strategy, which kind of provide that structure to the strategy, are one, saving lives and protecting people on the move, driving solutions to displacement, secondly, and then lastly, facilitating pathways for regular migration. So all three of those have a link to trafficking in persons, but most of our work will be done under that first objective, saving lives and protecting people on the move.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For clarification, when you say the Caribbean, does your office cover all of the countries in the Caribbean, or there is a specific group of country your office is working with?
That's a good question as well. So we do collaborate with all the countries in the Caribbean, but just as the UN Multi-Country Sustainable Development Framework focuses primarily on the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean, the same holds true for the Caribbean office. The Caribbean office is called a country office with coordinating functions. So we find that those outside of that, group there, the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean, have a structure, like the office in Dominican Republic, for instance, and so on. They already have a structure, so we work with them, but the oversight and guidance is provided mostly for those IOM offices in the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean.
Thank you. Now, our final question. You work across the 4 Ps, but as we close, what are some evidence-based recommendations for enhanced collaboration among state and non-state actors to achieve more effective prevention and protection efforts?
Yes, thanks for that question also. So a few things come to mind there, a few things that we've internally discussed as well. So one thing is communication. So a lot of issues that are had in the whole effort to collaborate usually come up with communication, whether communication that happened in the wrong way or communication that didn't happen. So establishing frameworks that foster productive communication, I think would be a good way to go. If they're already established, then reviving them or bolstering them to to not only foster communication, but productive communication, and also conflict resolution, because sometimes there is an issue in the past that lingers and that affects work. It's important as well to kind of address those issues to really take things forward. A framework like that might also allow for enhanced recognition of what each party brings to the table. When each party feels respected, more likely to want to work together. Enhanced trust. Sometimes things affecting collaboration could be involving trust. So maybe some information sharing is not as free as you would like. One party senses the other is not sharing, they hold back. So these things can happen. And so finding ways to enhance trust between those partners is important, because at the end of the day, both parties, state actors and non-state actors, their goal is the same. Their goal is to support victims of trafficking, to prevent further victims or further victimization from occurring, to dissuade traffickers or would-be traffickers from seeing this area as a place to play their quote-unquote trade. So enhancing trust, focusing on the main goal. One is on the ground more. Invariably, there's some value to that. One maybe has more structure, more resources backing what they're doing. There's value to that. How about making sure that we bring the best of both worlds together to foster collaboration, to reach that common goal? Another thing that comes to mind there is when we talk about non-state actors, sometimes we just think about civil society, but we also have the private sector, right? We also have donor agencies. Private sector sometimes are not necessarily as visible in these counter-trafficking efforts. So one thing that could be done is involving them more. Of course, the onus is also on them to notice that a lot of times when a trafficking in persons, when it occurs, private sector is under the spotlight. So in knowing that and having that will to perform some public service, even if their sector is private, they can as well reach out to see what opportunities there are to contribute to the efforts to combat trafficking in persons. So they could reach out to civil society, reach out to government, both see if they can be involved in the frameworks that exist, see if they need new frameworks to be created, look for ways to look for out-of-the-box ways, maybe, to address some issues that maybe are not necessarily in the minds of those in the bureaucratic system or those on the ground. Those who are in the business room might have some different ideas. So it's important to have all those at the table to get the best response possible. Another thing is service mapping. So it's important as well to be able to know what services are available, and that could lead to a bit more efficient collaboration. A lot of cases it needs really swift response. So if we're scrambling at that time to find out what is what and where and who is who and where is where, then things can fall down and persons can be hurt. So it's important to have these things already in place, and we want to note there that Free the Slaves, through the Caribbean Coalition Against Trafficking in Persons, is working to do a stakeholder mapping in the region. So IOM is supportive of that initiative, and IOM has supported some of the in-country service mapping activities that have been done. And lastly, I would say collaboration cross-border. So even though we're talking about the Caribbean, so even though we're maybe thinking now, all I said earlier, and thinking about within my country, how can governments and civil society and private sector work together more? But how can we leverage the advancements made by some countries in the Caribbean in these areas to help improve the status quo in the countries that may need a bit more work? So how can we do that? One thing is cross-border collaboration among state actors, of course. This is something that is it's normal that we expect state actors to get together for meetings or forums, to have discussions and so on, for trainings, and they get to meet together at these capacity building events. But non-state actors as well. How often do we find reasons or ways to get non-state actors involved in these regional forums? how can they, though in the cases where the non-state actors have developed these relationships, productive communication with state actors, how can they share their experiences, share how they have built trust among each other with other non-state actors, and the same, of course, for the state actors, so that they could share that across country borders, so that those benefits what were felt in one country can make it across the border to another country also. So sharing those best practices, maybe even doing capacity building among each other to help raise capacities to support national priorities. Those things can be beneficial based on what we've seen. And there are other things, of course, but I might leave it there for now.
Thank you very much, Oliver. I know our time is limited and we would take a lot of time to talk more. And I think you share with us some very important wisdom about your experience and the good job IOM is doing in the Caribbean. Adrian, listen to you.
Thank you so much, Oliver, and of course, Smith, for conducting this interview. We learned so much more about IOM and IOM's work in the region. Some of the work, as Oliver mentioned, would have predated his going over to IOM, but certainly IOM has been a fixture and a feature in the Caribbean for many years. I think my own introduction into counter-trafficking began about 2009 here in Trinidad and Tobago, and IOM would have been doing work prior to that. This would have been around the 2006-2007 period of time, or just before that, in preparation for the Cricket World Cup. You know, that massive movement of people into the region, following the different cricket teams at that time. And of course, Trinidad and Tobago and other governments became members of the IOM around that period of time. And we've benefited tremendously from the technical expertise that the IOM has offered. We here in Trinidad and Tobago had our jewel, as it were, who was here as head of office for a number of years and has now moved to another region. But certainly, I don't believe that many of the governments would have attained the types of successes, whether in terms of policy development or even things in the area of, as Oliver mentioned, SOPs and other forms of capacity building, had it not been for the collaboration and the expertise provided by international NGOs. So most certainly, they play a phenomenal role in combating trafficking and so many other issues that take place in the region. It's always good that Oliver, as a son of the soil, he's also invested personally to see that this is a region which stamps out the evil of human trafficking. So thank you so very much, guys, for your time and for sharing your hearts. And this has been Caribbean Connections, a feature podcast of the Caribbean Coalition Against Trafficking in Persons. So we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.